and hopefully we'll see some people filter in if I've done this correctly, which I'm convinced I have. But there we go. I'm still getting to grips with Twitch.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm saying that for many weeks and months to come. But
I think it's its own beast, and as I guess we'll talk about. But running a publisher is you're wearing a lot of different hats, and I don't think either of us had streamer as our. Well, I mean, I guess I had done it a bit before. But
you dabbled in streaming. I think you could have been like a pro streamer, like an esports player or something. I reckon if you'd stuck at it.
I think that's a tough gig. I think it's a tough gig.
But
welcome to anybody who's listening to our rambling. Probably I'll be rambling for a little bit longer because it's quite early in the morning here, and I'm still kind of waking up. But that is fine. We're really wrapping around the whole world, I guess.
We are.
Hey, Bucket and Low, how you go? So what have you been up to, Rory? What is your have you been gaming much? Have you been doing anything?
A little bit, yeah. I've been really busy this month with work, which is nice. I had a quiet period, which was really nice. But when you work for yourself, as you will know, that because of quiet periods, you're like, oh, I hope some work comes soon, and then inevitably, as soon as you have that thought, loads of work comes, and then so I'm sort of I'm trying not to get annoyed by people who are winding down for Christmas because it's very lovely for them, and I shouldn't be frustrated by that. But it's just a bit hectic, but it's all good. I've been doing a little bit of gaming. I've been playing Star Wars Armada a bit more, which is a game I used to play many years ago and then stopped, and then I've found someone local to me that also plays, so that's been nice. It kind of justifies having that big box gathering dust on my shelf for so many years, playing it again. So
but it's the kind of game you really need somebody else, right, who's as invested in it as you are to make it
I mean, it's a very I'm always lured in by those big box 2-player games. Like Star Wars Rebellion is another game I'd love to play, and War of the Ring is a game I would love to try, but you're right, you have to they're difficult games to play because you need to find someone who's going to happily dedicate a morning or a day to just you and them hanging out, and they also know the rules as well because they're not particularly easy games to teach. So we've got some votes in the chat already. We've got Chark and Fireflash, two of our wonderful Discord captains who are moderators on Discord. Very nice to see you both.
Hello.
I'm just going to mute while I blow my nose. I know that's a bit gross, but I've got a bit cold at the moment, so.
No, that's fine. Yes, no, I haven't. Well, all my games are in boxes along. I don't know where they're probably off the coast of Norway or something at the moment. I don't know. I think they're going via Sri Lanka. That's what we've been told. But anyway, that won't be for many months yet. So
did you pack any in your hand luggage? I mean, or you've got some. Your parents have got some, right?
My mum especially is an avid charity shopper, so she picks up various things over here. I'm just looking up on the shelf of what they've kind of collected. She does find some good stuff sometimes, I must say. She found like the Game of Thrones LCG ones, weirdly enough.
Well, I enjoyed that. I got into that recently as well.
Oh, okay. It's only the first edition. I don't know if that makes a huge difference.
I've only played second edition, but I'm sure it's for muchness.
Yeah. But and like a Harbour game, like old Wolfgang Kramer, I think it's Wolfgang Kramer, this expedition game, but then also a lot of rubbish sort of thing. But no, I found a really interesting game yesterday, weirdly enough. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's called Zigzag. It's from the 80s, and it's this kind of like hexagonal domino 2-player game. You have these kind of like different areas. You have like each player has the same set of pieces, but they're like, I have one like 4 hex piece that's like together like 2x2 kind of. I have like a 3 in a line and a 3 with a curve and some 2s and some 1s. And you have like this like plastic molded board with 7 different areas of different shapes, or like a whole, like, I don't know, like 10 spaces in this kind of hexagonal kind of island kind of thing. And you're just taking turns placing your pieces on any island you want, one at a time. And you're basically trying to like be the person who puts their last piece in an island to complete it. And then you get the points of that island. The bigger islands are worth more points. and it just seems really. I was really surprised. I just saw it at the bottom of a box. I was like, okay, whatever, $2, I'll buy it, and I didn't even look at it. And I got home and I'm like, wow, actually, I would probably play this game. I'd be surprised. I need to find who designed it because I feel like it's Sid Saxon. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Sid Saxon. But
Yeah, it sounds Sid Saxon-esque.
yeah, but it's from the era where you don't where like the designer's name is nowhere to be found, basically, or like it's sort of within that kind of Milton Bradley kind of thing. But yeah, that was a fun little find. Anyway, yeah,
Nice. Is that your first gaming since you moved house?
No, well, we bring some games with us in our luggage, so we've been playing. I've continued playing a lot of Fantasy Realms. We now have the expansion, which is a lot of fun, and we're still enjoying it a lot. I tried to. I play. There's the game Innovation. I'm not sure if you know the game Innovation, Rory, from Carl.
I'm familiar with it. I've not played it. I know of it, but I'm not
yeah, it's one of my favorite games. But I made the mistake of trying to play it with Treasy and kind of forgetting that it's not the most visually appealing kind of game. Maybe if you ever want to do a graphical redesign, Rory, I'm sure there'd be a legion of fans who'd be.
Is there not did Yellow not release a nicer looking one?
They did. Quite hard to find now because I don't think they have it in print, and maybe English is difficult. There was also like a Polish version, but I think there's something about it. I don't think it needed a lot of like illustrations and colors necessarily. It just needed a bit of something beyond the very basic thing it got in the initial thing. But anyway,
enough,
yeah. But we've got a few more games.
It looks like the sort of game where there's quite the cards are doing quite a lot. So I guess there needs to be a visual clarity.
Exactly. And we've got a few more people. Thank you so much for the wishes from Morgan Dom. Yeah, thank you for everyone for joining. I can't. As I was saying to Teresa, I couldn't believe that. Yeah, it is basically. I mean, we had probably not delivered at this point Voyages. I think last year. I think we're a bit closer to Christmas. But yeah, a lot has happened in a year.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a nebulous thing forming Postmark, and I guess we could have made our birthday the day we actually released Voyages, but with Matthew moving house and stuff, we were like, let's just put a date in the diary and be like, that's the day that we're going to celebrate with an anniversary stream. It's roughly this time of year, so yeah, it's that's it. That's going to be our birthday, I suppose. Fireflash says the birthday is the day the Discord started. Yeah, that could be one way of measuring it, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, the main thing sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, James makes a good point. I mean, we can, if anyone is watching and is not following our Twitch channel, feel free to follow it. It's a bit of a new. We've finally been professional and got our own Twitch channel, so would appreciate that. And thanks, James, for pointing that out.
Yeah, I think I certainly would like to do some more streaming in future. Playing, the games that we make are, I think, work so well over video chat that it just seems right that we should play them more. So yeah, if we can build a bit of a community on Twitch, then that would be great. We can play more games over stream, and that would be fun. And then maybe if I do it more regularly, I'll become a bit less afraid of making things go wrong on Twitch, which is still a fear I have.
Well, we're still here. It's okay. We haven't disappeared in a puff of dust or anything. So I think you're doing okay, I would say.
Oh, Fireflash made a good point, which is I think we made Fireflash an admin for when we used to stream from your channel, but we probably should make Fireflash an admin for this channel, because
if you go into that same dashboard, you can look at followers, and then you can assign followers to be admins or mods or whatever. I think.
Bear with us, folks. We will get to some interesting games chats shortly.
This is just building. It's all about building the anticipation. Like you've got to have that.
Yeah. So I need to go into create a dashboard.
Yes, and then into. There should be something about community. I think I'm pretty sure.
Oh
it's
yeah,
called.
community. Okay, I'm
And
getting there.
then you should be able to see the list of followers. I think.
Yeah, and then if I go and hit it, I can click on. No, that's not what I need to do. Oh dear.
Do you want me to try and find it?
Maybe if you can go in, I'll talk amongst ourselves in the meantime.
I can do two things at once. I can pretend to. No, it turns out I can't probably do two things at once. Talk, Rory, talk.
It's good. Well, Vertigo's here, which is great to see Vertigo as well. Vertigo is another one of our wonderful Discord captains. So hello to Vertigo, and you're not late. Don't worry about it. And Board Game Lever says, I'm taking my lunch break at work. Delayed taking my lunch break at work so I could be here. That is as someone who values lunch massively, I am incredibly honoured by that. Yeah, that's like a very touching thing for me. I don't have breakfast, and so when it gets to lunchtime, I'm like, I've got to eat lunch now. So delaying taking your lunch is a wonderful show of of kindness. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, folks are saying, the Copac saying, you're legally obligated to have technical difficulties whenever you stream live. Yeah, that's true. I did many years ago. Used to play in a band, so I guess that was a very different kind of live streaming in a way. And yeah, things go wrong and you roll with it. But actually, I used to.
What did you play in the band?
I played the banjo. Was that was my sort of main instrument I played in the band, and I played with my cousin who's my best friend, and we used to have this kind of constant back and forth about he was sort of the front man, I suppose, and I guess stage nerves would always cause him to kind of be negative about the band, because that's kind of the thing you do. I guess as a British person, we are that's what we do when we get awkward. We just I don't know. We just kind of negative, I suppose. And yeah, we'd always have discussions in the band about how you should channel that awkwardness away from negativity, and you shouldn't be like, oh, we're so bad, but you're going to enjoy it anyway, kind of vibe. So I'll try and remember that. That was a lesson learned from a previous life that I should deploy now, and I should be positive. And here we are. It's a wonderful stream. Matthew and I are here, and we've got I've done like a mini PowerPoint presentation. It's not death by PowerPoint. It's very, very short. I think it's only about 5 slides. Hopefully every slide is interesting in some way. There's no, as much as I wanted to, there's no charts and graphs and tables and stuff. So yeah, I guess that's pretty professional, having that as part of it. So I'm going to roll with that.
It seems like Fireflash is purging some people, so we should be ready for that, I guess.
Right.
But I think I've set up the mods thing correctly, and actually, now Vertigo's here, I can also add Vertigo. But oh god, too much stuff. I would say maybe could you make us a theme song or something for to the stream?
Yeah, I guess I could. I play a little bit still. I do play sort of recreationally. Not that I ever played professionally. That sounds like I was making money from it. It absolutely wasn't. Props to any musicians that can make money from it, because it's a hard thing to do. But yeah, I just play old folk songs now, just to while away my evenings. And that's a way to unwind. It's a nice thing. I kind of like having it, and not as like art for me now is so very much linked to work, that whereas that used to be a pursuit that I would do to wind down, I don't really do that anymore. And same with game design. Really, game design used to be something I would do to unwind, and it's not really an unwinding activity. So yeah, I mustn't make the banjo a successful outlet of my creative career, because then I'll have nothing. I'll just have to, I don't know, brew beer or something.
So yeah, that's true. I have the same. The whole thing of making hobby or business or whatever definitely happened with games for me. So I realized I need to find some new hobbies, but that's fine.
Well, Lego's your new hobby, right? That's your thing.
So what's my hobbies?
Lego your
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I will have to find that.
I've sort of made you sound very one-dimensional by just saying that's your only hobby. Lego, that's games and
Just
Lego.
putting a brick in each thing. No, yeah. Well, I don't know what. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I wonder if we should slowly get the show on the road.
We should, yeah. We definitely should. I mean, there's a few folks here, which is great. Thanks so much for everyone sending out. It's great. And as Morg97 has pointed out, the World Cup is on too, which I didn't realise. I don't really follow football, so I apologise that we have scheduled this to clash with what is arguably a more interesting show to watch. But if you can dual screen or multi-screen, if you're of that generation, then yes, please do encourage you to watch
that generation. How old are you again, Rory?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I struggle to multi-screen. I mean, I occasionally put the TV on while I have my lunch, just because obviously I haven't had enough screen time during the day. And yeah, and I struggle to. And then I inevitably end up looking at emails and stuff on my phone, and then don't watch what's on TV. And there are people that can do it well, and I'm not one of them. As evidence, every time that we play a game on Overstream, and I have to do any kind of Twitch admin duty, and then it just all falls apart. That's my excuse anyway, and I'm sticking by it. When Matthew and I play privately, I beat him every time. Of course, when we play in a public-facing way, I have to do many other things, and that's why I lose. So that's what I'm going to go with. Anyway.
Fireflash, I did get some Lego with the gift card. Thank you very much for the very kind gift. But I think it is also in a box somewhere coming around. So we will see. No worries, James. Lurk away, and yeah, enjoy the news. So I guess shall we? With that, we will start our presentation. You know, I feel like we should be like presenting to the board or something.
Yeah, no, I kind of I'm imagining sort of like an Apple keynote or like a Nintendo Direct or something.
We're not wearing what is it, turtlenecks. We should be wearing turtlenecks.
No, I know. We should have got a uniform. But if everybody in the Twitch chat could sort of cheer and stuff when things come up, that would be great. Ensign53 on Discord can't watch right now, but wants us to relay the following message. Let them know those of us stuck at work and able to watch still love them and are excited for the anniversary. That's incredibly kind. That's really, really nice. I'll drop into Discord and reply to them after this. Yes, anyway, without further ado. So I did say that there'd be no charts and graphs. Matthew and I did discuss with potentially talking about Postmark finances, if that's interesting for anyone, but we didn't really get our act together, so we'll have to do that at a later date. But yeah, this sort of idea that we would be transparent. I mean, you know, as folks will know, that we had two pretty big Kickstarter campaigns, so you kind of see numbers on there. But yeah, we were just going to be a bit open about other stuff too, and that will come hopefully at some point in the future. But for now, because we're slightly unprepared, I only have one slide with a number on it, and it is the number of people that have supported us since we launched Voyages this time last year-ish, which is a whopping 23,470 by my count. And yeah, it's just we wanted to say thank you, really. Like it's a huge thing to kind of put games out into the world. You know, it's often a difficult thing. Maybe less so for Matthew as a seasoned game designer, but for me as a relatively new game designer, you know, it's still something I find fairly nerve-wracking. So for people to kind of get behind us and support what we're doing, that's it's really touching for me. And I think I speak for both of us when you say we're incredibly grateful for everybody that's backed a campaign, bought a game on the website, like retweeted us, posted about us, done reviews of Voyages or Aquamarine. Yeah, it's just great. It's a nice thing, and we've talked about it on a few streams before, but really like the community that very quickly sprung up around Voyages and since with Aquamarine has been probably the best thing about doing Postmark. I think it's just been great. Like people have been wonderful, and you know, it's just, I think it's testament to how nice the board game / kind of print at home community are, that we just have lovely people in the Discord and there's lovely chat, and it's just really cool. So yeah, that's
yeah. Sorry, thanks for I echo that thanks, definitely. And no, I mean in the I did look back at the sales thing, just folks might be interested. We've actually sold now, I think we're almost at 4,000 games sold through the website, which is not too bad, I think, considering that we've done pretty much zero marketing or any sort of pushing to the website or anything like that. So no, we've been really thankful, and I think also just the number of people who kind of word of mouth, talking to people, encouraging them to play the game, spreading the word, because we haven't done it ourselves so well. So really, no, thank you to everyone. It is, it's very humbling. Is there a Discord invite link? Yeah, Rory, can you drop it in the chat? I don't.
I can. Yes, let me just see if I can get my hands on it.
Oh yes, we always. I don't know how reliable Discord is always a funny beast. That it's sort of you create these permanent links and they sometimes stop working.
I think it's in. Let me just let me see if I can.
Oh, Fireflash is on it. Don't worry. Thank you, Fireflash.
Oh, thank you, Fireflash. That's great.
We made you a mod for a reason. You may have nuked the chat earlier, but like this is you redeeming yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I guess with the website, like 4,000 games sold, that's something I'm proud of. That's a pretty incredible number, really. Like you say, Matt, we haven't done any kind of advertising. In fact, I think we were just talking at the top of the chat about the top of the stream about how you have to wear many hats as a board game publisher, which is something I've kind of appreciate much more since we've actually been doing it. Matthew and I both worked with publishers before, and I think I hadn't kind of really appreciated how much of a like an elephant balancing on a small rubber ball sort of job that is, because you're just constantly on the move, you're constantly having to do stuff that you potentially don't really know a huge amount about. You've got to think quick, and props to all of the publishers out there that are making a living from it, because it's a hard thing to do. And I mean, I think we've been lucky that with the success of Voyages, that kind of has catapulted us into a position where we don't have to do a huge amount of marketing, although I am trying to get better at it. I'm trying to upskill. It's one of the things that I'm pushing myself to get better at, because we want more people to play the games. It's obviously the whole point of it. When you make games, you want people to play them and enjoy them. So yeah, that's something we'll try and get better at. But in the meantime, the website is doing its thing. It's postmarkgames.com. If you haven't been there, there's not a huge amount to see on there if you've bought both the games or if you backed both the games previously. But if you haven't, or if you know people that would like them, you can always point them in that direction. And it's doing its thing nicely. And as Matt was saying, 4,000 odd of that 23,000 are people that have come to us via the website. So yeah, really appreciate people sort of investigating us in between Kickstarter campaigns, I suppose, because that's kind of when the limelight's off a little bit, and folks that have kind of found us that way, we really appreciate that too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a really great thing. So
let's move on.
New stuff, Rory.
New stuff. So the first thing that we want to announce is that Aquamarine Map 4 is officially going to be the Polar Shelf, which was one of the options that was available to vote for on the Kickstarter during the Kickstarter campaign, and I think it got quite a lot of votes, and a lot of folks were a bit sad that they wouldn't get to see penguins, but there are penguins now, and that's what we're going to be working on next. Is for Aquamarine is the Polar Shelf, which will be the penguin-based map. So yeah, that's in development. It's not ready just yet. In fact, we haven't really started it other than kind of brainstorming a few ideas. But we've got a bit of a direction for it. So hopefully we can make some progress with that. And as with everything, if you bought Aquamarine or if you back Aquamarine, it will be available for free when it's ready. You'll just be able to download it from the Dropbox. So that is the first thing. Penguins.
Yeah,
which
and I
feels very.
should say
Sorry, go on, Matt.
it's a good positive to start with. I should say, also thanks to all the folks who've got some good comments back about map 3, and I think there might also be a case where we send out a revised map 3 at some point. I think it was a bit of a beast to test map 3, so I suspect that I think it's right now it's probably a bit hard. So we might look at make it a little bit easier in the future, but yeah, so that will sort of probably happening concurrently with map 4. So we'll see how that goes, but we're definitely committed to keep releasing content for Aquamarine. Probably not as quickly as we did for Voyages. That's just because once you get to 2 games at the same time, it's like splitting your time amongst 2 children or something like that. But no, we definitely we really like the game, and we still definitely want to keep putting stuff out for it.
Yeah, I think it's it's like I think with Aquamarine, I think for me, I think I kind of pushed myself a little bit into doing some art stuff, which I hadn't done before, which I think was, I enjoyed doing. I learned some new stuff, but it does mean that things take a little bit longer for me to do from the art perspective. Not a huge amount of time, but it's I guess part and parcel of finding our way with Postmark is finding kind of how we best work, and it's good. It's a good journey, and I want to keep kind of pushing the envelope in terms of what we're designing and kind of the artwork as well. So yeah, that's it's a little bit slower, but as Matt said, we're going to keep going. We'll keep pushing forward, and hopefully we'll have a new map to you soon. But
I think it looks great, Rory, I should say, with you pushing yourself. So yeah.
Thanks. But we do have something to announce for Aquamarine, which is the Divers Log for Map 2, which is something I know a lot of folks have asked for. If you're not familiar with Aquamarine, or if you haven't used the Divers Log before, it's a kind of a series of achievements that you can do while playing the game. You can try and pitch for while doing the game. So we released the Divers Log for Map 1 at the end of the campaign, and it was kind of always something that we wanted to do, is to release Divers Logs for future maps, and now we have. So this is actually out now. You can get it from the Dropbox, which you should have a link to if you back the campaign, or if you bought the game from the website. You can go and grab that now and play it and enjoy it. And it's also got some, which you can't see on this graphic, some a solo score table, or a scoring table, I should say, for getting points, for seeing where you kind of stack up in the kind of points table, which again we had for map 1, but we hadn't got for map 2. I just wanted to say another thank you to the folks that kind of very kindly supplied data for that, because that's within those kind of scoring tables where you've got brackets like, if you get between these scores, you're this. If you get between these scores, you're this. They only really work if you can grab a lot of data, and people have been great at posting up their dives on Discord, and that's allowed us to kind of grab the numbers we need to make that score table. So at the bottom of the Divers Log, you'll have that score table which you can use and hopefully see where you measure up against the different brackets.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing probably, because there in map 2, there are a few sort of common achievements. We've got a whole bunch of new ones, but there are also a few that have come across from map 1, which are still good from map 1. Basically, there are still some general challenges, but of course, in a new map, they have a bit of a different meaning and a different feel. So, and I think generally, even though it's not kind of our official position, I think if you ever see a thing on a particular Divers Log, it can kind of be used for any map, if that makes sense. Obviously not the things that are referencing the specific features of that particular map, but if as we come up with sort of new general ones, you can apply them back. Do whatever you want. Basically, we give you the tools and have fun however you please. I think.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a stance that we've taken across all the stuff that we've done for Voyages and Aquamarine is that we're very open to like community feedback, and if folks are like, oh, like for example, this achievement is really fun on this map or whatever, then that's great. It's something that we can look at making official, although as Matt says, it's something you can do anyway. But we'll always listen to the community, and like we were just saying with map Aquamarine map 3. We've had some feedback on that, which we're going to look into, and potentially there'll be a kind of updated version of that. So we're always listening. If there's something you feel strongly about in the games, reach out and tell us. And you never know, it might have a positive impact on what we do to the game next. So we are 3 slides into my 5-slide presentation, which is we're rocketing through it.
A good presentation is a short presentation. That's
exactly, yeah. So that's Aquamarine. They're the kind of 2 things we wanted to announce for that, just really to let folks know that we're still working on it, we're still beavering away. Speaking of experimental, we have the Voyages map 6, Edge of the World, which is again one of the ones which was up for vote in the campaign. We did around the campaign last year. It didn't win, but it was kind of something that we'd kept on the back burner, and we thought, we want to revisit that and work on it. This is in development, so the kind of graphic that you see here is not potentially that representational, because as Matthew reminded me earlier on, this is actually a slightly older one that we've got here, because we've been working on it. So don't pay too much attention to it, but thematically, the map is going to be kind of a bit more exploration focused, I suppose. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, you'll be. You can kind of see, or we can talk a little bit about it. Though you basically there'll be some islands which are undiscovered, and over the course of the game, you'll be able to choose which islands you're going to discover. Obviously, you discover an island, and you can land there and get the bonuses from it. And also we've reintroduced, reintroduced it. It's not to Voyages back, as it's not a reintroduction, but to Rory and us, it's a reintroduction because in Rory's very initial prototype of Voyages, there were fish, and the sailors had to eat fish, otherwise they'd have some problems. And we thought, well, you're so far from home at the edge of the world, probably you're running out of food. So we've reintroduced fish. As a sort of thing you have to, if you're stuck at sea, you need to make sure you eat fish. But of course, there's ways to pick them up and manipulate that, and potentially use fish for other benefits as well. So, yeah, I think it will be hopefully a different, again a different kind of experience. And we're trying to do something a little bit unusual, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer. But hopefully folks will enjoy it, and we thought we would say it now, because I know that I've seen a question for a few times. I'm not sure if it's only from one person or from multiple people who are worried about what they're going to print on the back of map 5. So if we are hoping, I mean, I don't ever really like promising, but it will be soon. It's not, we're not talking, this is not going to be midway next year. I'm hoping at latest it'll be sometime in January. And I think Rory would agree with that, hopefully, as a sort of time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously working on it around kind of the break and stuff, because obviously Matthew and I need to have a bit of a break over Christmas. But yeah, I would like to get it done. I mean, we originally did kind of want to have it done for this stream, but as is always the case, we don't want to release something that's half-baked, and we'd rather work on it and make sure it's right, so that when it gets to backers and people who bought the game through the website's hands, they can play it knowing that it's going to work well and it's going to be fun. So, I mean, I think just going back to your point about there being fish in it, I mean, it was I thought quite a nice thing for me. I probably started work on what would become Voyages about 2 years ago, around this time. It was between the Christmas and New Year break that I worked on it, the IdleCon Game Jam, which I talked about before. But I think it's quite a nice thing, I guess, to do something a little bit cyclical and to come back with some of the ideas that we used in that, which, when Matthew and I talked about them for the kind of the the actual release of Voyages decided they weren't quite right, but we can massage them back into it through different systems in this new map. So yeah, a nice kind of cyclical thing really, which I guess that's more for my own benefit than anybody else's, but it makes me feel kind of warm inside that that's something that that was there at the very kind of genesis of the game. It can be reintroduced and hopefully be fun. So
no, I think folks will enjoy it when we get there. But yeah, so don't keep the back of your maps 5 ready, I guess.
Yeah.
But also you don't have to. There are so many, as actually also answer to that question. In the Discord, there's so many amazing community maps, and still more community maps being made for both Voyages and Aquamarine. So also feel free to use one of those amazing community maps on the back of your map 5 as well.
Yeah, I keep Fireflash and I keep talking about doing a stream together. In this hopefully new land of me streaming a bit more as Postmark, where we kind of talk about some of the community maps, because I think it would be if folks are on Discord, they're kind of readily available and talked about on there. But I think outside of that, we should do a bit more to promote them, because they're I think it's really interesting. As a game designer, you make something and then you put it out there, and I think it's so interesting to see. It's almost like, I guess, if you're a musician and you release a track and someone remixes it, because there's some really interesting ideas, both kind of thematically and also mechanically, that folks have kind of pushed around at kind of the edges of the system. So yeah, I'd like to do a bit more to promote those as well, because it would be fun to play those in stream and get people talking about them, I suppose. So that's Voyager Map 6, which we are working on, not quite ready, but something that is ready, which is, I guess, the main main event, the main course is, there should be a drum roll, but I'm not going to do a drum roll. A campaign mode for Voyages. Where this will be when everyone will be, way. Or at least that's what I'm imagining. Perhaps we're more excited about this than folks at home. But yeah. So the campaign mode. Yes. The chat hasn't let me down. So the campaign mode, I know this is something that some folks have talked about before, and I know that some people have done kind of their own homebrewed systems, which I think is excellent. Playing one map after another. But I think it's something that Matthew and I had always kind of wanted to look at right from when we'd started making new maps, is a way to kind of tie them all together in a fun, cohesive way. And now we have that. And this is out. It's ready. It's on the Dropbox. You can go and grab it. You can play it. With one small caveat, which is there's so many kind of systems in play, and obviously it's kind of played across all 5 maps that are there at the moment, and you can just use 5 different maps when we release map 6. But the caveat is that we're kind of releasing it as a version 1, a 1.0, and we potentially will kind of tweak stuff as more people have played it, because it's not something that's particularly easy to play test. We've got some great play testers on Discord who give us some great feedback. The Discord captains who are in the chat, and also Coend, who does a lot of great playtesting and feedback for us. So shout out to Coend as well. But yeah, so we haven't, we've play tested it as much as we can, but it's something that we're going to just have as a bit of a living document. So please go ahead and download it. It's fun. I guarantee you'll have some fun with it. But we might release a slightly updated version at some point in the future, depending on kind of the feedback we get from it. But Matt, I've done a lot of talking. Do you want to briefly explain, or not so briefly explain, how the campaign works?
Sure, I could do that. So yes, it is one single extra sheet, as you can see in the image, basically, and there are also some rules, of course. And basically, it's a way to play any 5 maps. We have actually left it open. You can, in fact, repeat the same map within that 5. That doesn't matter as you want. And it could also include, of course, if you want to put your favorite community map amongst those 5, you're also welcome to do that, of course. so you're going to do an epic voyage across these 5 maps, and the idea is you're sort of tracking your progress and your scores throughout that time. So there are sort of 3 main elements. The first is the quest board, as you can see across the top of the sheet, and essentially you'll get a random quest at the start of each of the individual voyages, and these are a bit similar to the kind of daily challenges we've had before and things like that. But basically, you have that quest just for that map. If you achieve it, you'll get 10 extra gold and an extra star. The star is quite useful. If you're playing solo, that star will count towards your 3 stars for victory, which is quite good. And stars, as I'll get to, are important for another reason. I should also say, which we haven't said, the game is playable. The Epic Voyage is playable both in solo and multiplayer mode. Probably, I guess it's probably tailored a little bit more to a solo play, but the rules work to play as multiplayer. There's no problem with that, and all the abilities and all the Nemesis things work in both camps. So if you play it multiplayer, we'd especially love to hear from you if you play the campaign mode, because it's not something that we've done so much. We've probably been focused a bit more on solo, but we have made sure that it's compatible with both modes. And in a competitive mode, of course, you are actually competing against each other, and you can see how you go across the whole epic voyage as it is. But anyway, onto those stars. Why those stars are important? Because you have upgrades. You are able to, at the end of each voyage, you effectively can spend the stars that you've gained during that voyage to purchase upgrades. And these upgrades you'll have for the rest of your epic voyage. So if you get one after map 1, you will potentially have it for the next 4 voyages. And these are split into ship upgrades and crew. So ship upgrades are just static things that are sort of always happening, that always help you out. From a very basic, you get an extra sailor at the start of every voyage, or you can always have a +1 -1 on your duty die, or things like that, which can be useful for all sorts of different purposes. And then you have crew, which sort of upgrade to your crew. And these effectively give you new ways to use your sailors. So they're sort of super powerful sailors, and each of them can be used once a voyage. You have to use a sailor when you use them, and you mark off them, but they can be pretty powerful, like effectively taking action twice or getting to move again on a turn, things like that. So hopefully there's lots of interesting combos and things that probably we haven't even thought of there that could be quite useful. So that's upgrade. So getting stars, especially in the multiplayer mode now, stars, which before stars were maybe not as important, but definitely getting at least 2 or 3 stars is quite important, because getting those upgrades is very useful. So those are the upgrades, and that's kind of how you get better as the voyage goes on. But of course, if you're getting better, then the game has to fight back a little bit, and we do that through the Nemesis system. So there are 3 fearsome Nemesises, or Nemesi, I can't remember which word we settled on that, and you'll choose which one you're going to be fighting against, I think at the end of the first voyage or before the first voyage. And effectively, just like you upgrade after each voyage, as Nemesis gets stronger. So for the first map, that the Nemesis hasn't worked you out yet, so there's no problems. But after that, once you get into the second map, the Nemesis will gain an ability effectively, which will negatively impact you. And over the course of the game, after every map, they'll get a new ability, and they'll continue to have their old ability too. So by the 5th map, they'll have 4 different abilities that are negatively affecting you. And these are also, there are all sorts of nasty things. I try to remember. One is, I think, where you have to, you only roll 2 dice, and then you roll a 3rd die separately, and you have to use that for direction, so you don't actually get any choice of your direction and things like that. So it gets you get really tricky. But hopefully, of course, you're getting more powerful with your upgrades and things like that at the same time. And there are 3 different Nemesis that you can try, and they work. So that's hopefully some variety how you go. And basically, you just record, and then you've got, you can see at the bottom right there, you've got a logbook. So at the end of every voyage, you're going to record your gold. But you obviously record whichever map you did, the gold you got, the stars you got. At the end of the game, you're going to add up all your gold, and the most gold in a multiplayer game would be the winner. But in you can compare your scores in the Discord or elsewhere for solo play, and I'm sure we'll come up with some sort of solo comparison. But of course, it's a bit tricky because well, I mean, I guess it would be, maybe we'll have some challenges where it'll be a set sequence of maps or something like that, because of course it varies depending on what maps you do.
Yeah, I was just going to add, having played through the solo mode, I think it can be very challenging, and depending on the nemesis you get and the order in which you do the maps. And so, a way to play the solo mode is to kind of play, I guess, Iron Man is the XCOM term, isn't it? But it's to play that if you lose, you start again from the beginning. There's no takey backsies. So actually, a way to play the solo game is to just see if you can get through to the end of the 5th map intact, because it can be quite tricky. I actually, when I first played through this, didn't realise that your quest stars, because Matthew and I hadn't discussed this enough. Your quest stars actually go towards the stars you need to complete the map. So I guess I was playing on like super hard mode, and I managed to get all the way through to the end. So I was going to take that as a bit of a surprise. But yeah, it's
humble brag there. Humble brag.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the sort of thing I was, talking about with this being a version 1.0, is that if there are ways that people end up playing the game, they like to play it in a particular way, then we can lean into kind of pushing the campaign to kind of suit that a bit more, really. So we're really excited for people to play it, and if you do play it and you have some thoughts on it, please do let us know on Discord or on Twitter or on Instagram, or drop us an email if that's your preferred take, or speak to us in chat when we're next streaming. And yeah, we do discuss kind of every bit of feedback we get. We're not saying we will necessarily act upon it, but we do discuss it, and if we think it's something that we want to kind of look at, then we'll look at it. So yeah, it's always worth doing that. Slifter has asked, how long do you find a full campaign takes? I mean, it's 5 maps, and it depending on how quickly you play, I think multiplayer will be probably a bit longer, just by the kind of nature of how long multiplayer games may be taking slightly longer, although they can be shorter as well. But solo, I think probably in the region of 2.5-3 hours, maybe, factoring in playing each map, working out your different upgrades, things like that. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary. It's certainly something which, as we kind of have spoken about, is harder for us to test, because finding kind of 3 hours to sit through and play test something isn't as easy as sitting down and play testing a map for 20 minutes. So yeah, so you could do it in an afternoon or an evening. Definitely, if you're doing it with a group, you could definitely sit down. I mean, you could definitely accomplish it in a shorter amount of time than it took me and a group of friends to play Imperial Assault recently, which was probably in the region of about 3 months. So yeah,
that's true. Flash, you don't have to play it all at once. The sheet records everything for you, so you don't have to worry about doing it all at once. And there was a question about a penalty system. So yeah, you talked about the hard mode, we call it normal mode, not soft mode. But basically, in that mode for solo, if you lose, you just get to retry the map again, and you keep going until you beat it, basically. Or I think we talked about having a penalty per time you lost or something like that. But I think, to be honest, as with solo things, you do what feels right to you. And I think it's only when you're trying to compare your scores to others that it makes sense.
So. Board game leavers mentioned analysis for some people might be a factor. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think of all games, but I suppose something I'll just say on that is that I don't think Matthew's done kind of the majority of the design work here, and I think just to give him some credit, it's kind of it's very much in the it's not kind of bending the core rules of Voyages too far. So if you're playing with folks who have played a Voyages map before, then there shouldn't be an issue, really. I mean, there's an extra couple of things you need to remember, but the sheet records it all, and it's kind of the same level of breeziness, I suppose, if you could consider Voyages breezy, than the core game is. So if you're familiar with the core game, you should be able to kind of get straight into this, and it should be, it should feel all right. So yeah, I hope there won't be too much analysis paralysis. That is always something for some people, but yeah, there's not loads to think about. I mean, I think for me personally, I mean, my favorite part of it is the kind of the quest boards, because it's you get a very tangible reward for completing that quest, which is potentially an extra star. If you can get 4 or 5 stars on a map, or even 6 if you do really well, obviously that sets you up great for the next voyage, because you can go and recruit some really good crew or upgrade your ship in a way which is going to benefit you. So those quests are kind of they become a little bit more important than, for example, the daily challenges and stuff that we've done before, because they kind of really factor into ongoing games. So yeah, I think it's good. It's good fun. I really hope that folks play it and enjoy it. Obviously Voyages is now a year old, which in board games terms is ancient. But I hope, my hope is that folks that enjoy Voyages will check this out and give it a go, because I've perhaps been a little bit hyperbolic by saying a whole new way to play Voyages, but I do think it kind of freshens up those maps in a way that they haven't kind of been freshened up before. So yeah, check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, no, sounds great. So I guess we're near the end of it, which means we have, well, not that we have to stick to an hour or anything like that, but we've definitely got some, if anyone wants to ask some questions or something, we can open it to the floor in true presentation. Oh, we have a raid from someone, I think. From, I guess, oh, it's Jess CCG. Oh, thank you,
Jess.
I was just on Jess's stream the other day, actually, and she mentioned that maybe we actually were streaming exactly the same time as her, or before her. I can't remember. So sorry to clash with you, Jess, if we did. But thank you so much for coming and raiding, and thank you everyone for dropping by. We're near the end of our keynote presentation. We were saying we should be wearing some turtlenecks or something like that, or all dressed in black in true keynote style. But we just announced a few different things. But the main thing is a new campaign mode for Voyages, our print play game. You can, if you've got Voyages already, you can download it right now, or head over to our website, postmarkgames.com, and get Voyages, which includes this campaign mode. Morg asks, any teasers for a new game? What's your hope for a new game release schedule? Do you want me to take it, or do you want to answer, Rory?
I'll let you answer. I will just say one thing, which is we were originally thinking of releasing a new game in November/December, and then Matthew and I chatted about it, and with kind of schedules as they were, it felt like we'd be pushing it a little bit. And I think I'm really proud of Aquamarine and Voyages, and just as being really good, solid games, like good, fun games that people like, and we know they're good. So we just don't want to we didn't want to rush anything really. But yeah, I'll let you speak further to that, Matt.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I think initially we'd sort of talked about maybe even doing 2 main releases a year, and now that we've run a Kickstarter both in kind of like the end of the year time with Voyages and sort of in the middle of the year, I think we feel like the end of the year is like the best slot for us. We have an advantage kind of over other companies in that we can run a Kickstarter in December and then just immediately deliver, which I think is a huge thing. And I think there was a really positive feeling for that, to have the game for Christmas and things like that. And I feel like that's a really great, I think that's just a really good fit. So I think going forward, our plan is to have 1 main release a year, and to do the Kickstarter around November, December, like we did for Voyages. But that being said, that's just a plan. The other thing we'd like to start looking at is potentially releasing a few smaller games, but just directly through our website. Rory had a really great idea for a game, well, more than an idea, it had a prototype, which I am looking forward to working a bit more on helping develop, which I think could be really worthwhile for just releasing right directly to the website, potentially more experimental things or solo only games or things like that, and we'll kind of experiment like that and see how they're received, or if that works well. I don't think we're going to tease anything for the third game. We both know we both have a style of game that we want it to be. We know even what the look of it we want it to be. It's very different to the other two games, but we just haven't quite nailed the actual game itself, which of course is quite. So it's a little bit frustrating is that we know where we want to head. We haven't quite got it yet, but I'm hoping that with next year we'll have and to give it the proper amount of time. I think, as Rory said, we didn't want to rush things. I didn't help things by moving continents in the middle of the time, so I'm glad we made the decision we did, because I was considering, I was like, oh, we could launch the Kickstarter and it's okay if I board a flight the next day or something like that, but that would have been a bit crazy. So anyway, suffice to say, we have no great teasers or spoilers, unfortunately, but we will definitely let you know when we can, basically. But yeah, we're still committed to. Well, I think, at least me, I'm committed to keep going with Postmark and keep releasing new games.
I mean, now's a good time for us to both commit to that. So with 60 odd people watching, it's something that will continue, and we will continue to work on it. I think we just both in agreement that it's just better to kind of do it like the game that Matthew alluded to, that I think we must have made between us like 4 or 5 prototypes for, and they haven't quite worked. And I know I can make it. I've got such a vision of how it can look. I know I could make it look nice, and I feel like it's the sort of game which potentially folks might be excited about if we do it right. But that's just 2 elements of making games. The other element is actually having something that's good, and until we get to that point, we'll just keep chipping away at it. So
we have had a few other questions. I should say also, thank you so much, Jess, for rating. And everyone go and follow Jess CCG. If Fireflash, if you could drop a link to Jess's channel in the chat, so everyone here could please give her a follow, because she's fantastic. And if you want to see an interview with me, for example, you can look back on her VODs, which I think it should still be there. And thank you, Jen Cam Plays Board Games, for streaming Aquamarine recently. I hope thank you for your support. We were saying at the top of the stream, just a huge thank you to everybody who's really supported, whether that's purchasing the game, tweeting about it, streaming it. So thank you so much. That's really kind. Minerva Tabletop asks, what do you find is the best thing about working together? I'll throw that to you, Rory.
First of all, hello, Scott. I'm working with Scott of Minerva on another project at the moment. So yeah, thanks for dropping by. What's the best thing? I think for me personally, it's like I massively value Matthew's experience in game design, which is, as someone who has dabbled in making games in the past, and I've managed to stumble upon some games which I think have been good, and others which maybe not so good. But that's kind of my game design journey, and I think for me, it's just been a real eye-opening experience working with someone who kind of understands games on a bit more of an. I don't want to compliment you too much, because on an intellectual level, but I think it's. To be able to kind of bounce off ideas of someone who has that much experience is just like, I consider myself probably like a professional graphic designer and an amateur game designer, really, and to be able to sort of kind of ask questions and get feedback from on game design stuff it's great for me. It's just I'm leveling up.
Well, I think you're selling your game design short, but no, I mean, for me, well, firstly, thank you. That's very kind. I think we could all agree that you're an incredibly talented graphic designer and illustrator. And I mean, I think as a first point, I think these games are successful in big part because of that, but not just in terms of being able to have that game design. You're working with someone who really understands all concepts of that. Like I might be good at the game design, but I can't tell you how to make things look. But having a person who has actually those complementary skills and understands how games work and user interface and and illustration and graphics, like how that all can work together. I mean, I think we can all see that in how it's expressed in Voyages and Aquamarine, and that's why those experiences, it really adds to those experiences and makes them possible. So I think that for me, that is the, and just having like that all-in-one person that I get to work with, and get to, get to ask things of, and I think it means that you get to make games which really are this whole package where everything works together in a really, holistic way, if that makes sense. It all supports each other, and how the game plays and how it looks, and how you kind of interact with it, and how you make marks on the sheet, and all these things. These are things Rory thinks about, and I think it's a pretty, I mean, graphic design, obviously there's a lot of graphic design in the world, but there aren't that many who really understand game design and games as well, and have that all in one brain. Is one person is very useful. So, and also just apart from that, getting to work, I'm really glad that it's the first time I've run a company, so to speak. I think we're both feeling a bit amateur company runners, or amateur publishers or something like that, probably. But I feel very fortunate that that it's kind of worked out. We haven't had any. I don't think we've had any bust ups with. I think it's actually a really solid partnership. And
no, you'll find out about that when you see my subtweets one day, and you'll be like, okay. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, thanks very much, Matt. I think, like, we were talking about being a publisher, having to wear lots of different hats, and I feel like to be a successful publisher, it's if you can kind of have the right hats between you, I suppose, to bend that analogy maybe a bit too far. And we're fortunate, I think, that between us we've got enough hats that we can make things kind of work, and that's good. And we have talked quite a bit about the bits that we're not so good at, kind of as a team, and in the future potentially maybe we kind of, if we ever get to the point of hiring someone, what we'd maybe want to do to kind of make that even better, and kind of fill the gaps and bolster the bits we can't do so well. So yeah, I think we're lucky that kind of between us we've managed to get over all of the hurdles that you need to do to run a company and launch something, and it's worked out all right.
We just have to get through our first tax time. That's coming up, which is going to be
I think so.
Not that I think we're doing everything above board. Don't worry, we're prepared. But I think until you go through that, that's the last the final boss. I think the HRMRC or whatever, which is quite a formidable final boss as it would be.
I mean,
sorry, you go. Sorry.
It's as a slight peek behind the curtain, after Voyages, which was way more successful than Matthew and I had ever kind of anticipated. And that's not us being kind of modest. We genuinely, like, to the point where the money was all going into my bank account, my personal bank account, which stressed me out a lot. And Matthew was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Just get it to me when you can," which was stressing me out because it's quite a lot of money. And so the kind of first thing we did upon minting Postmark games was to hire an accountant and make sure that we were doing everything above board, because that was definitely as it was, the Voyages was such a ride, really, that campaign, because it was just every day was like, wow, this is just, I can't even believe it. And the only thing that tempered that for me was just the fear of am I money laundering or doing something bad. So I spoke to two accountants, so I hope that we're all okay. Things are going to be okay, but that's just.
I think we're in good hands. I think we're in good hands. I wouldn't worry too much. So to another question, Slifter asked, do we plan on sticking with Kickstarter for the foreseeable future? Well, I guess we kind of answered that a little bit. In that we're going to try a few games where we don't use crowdfunding, some smaller experiences. I really hope we'll do one in the new year, and I think that might be a way to keep our fix for if the next big release, the plan is to do it next November. That's a long time, so I think I'm itching to kind of get back to doing some new game design. So I think I hope we'll be able to release something directly on the website somewhere in the middle of the year. That's definitely the hope. But for the bigger releases, I think for now we're sticking with Kickstarter, but that's not a pledge, that's not a commitment. That's just kind of where we are. I guess we've got some experience in running Kickstarters, and obviously trying to leverage that, when you're trying to do so many different things. Any place where you don't have to completely relearn something new is quite useful. But that being said, we're not, we will adapt and change if that makes sense. So we'll see. It's quite a way away from that campaign. So we'll obviously we'll
see how
update
it
that.
goes.
Wherever
Yeah, I mean, I guess we talked about this a bit before, but like marketing is like a massive part of making games, and it's something that I think neither Matthew or I are particularly good at. I hope you don't mind me speaking for you.
No.
Matthew. And so, a benefit of something like Kickstarter is that the marketing is kind of baked in a little bit, as in it, they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. It's like, I think they're kind of platforms like that are really useful. And we're getting to the point, I think, where, we can do stuff like Matt was saying through our website, because we've kind of got a bit of an audience now, to not use too many kind of horrible, disgusting marketing terms. But we've got folks that play the games, and that we're on a mailing list, and so we can kind of devote time to making stuff that we just put out via those channels, and hopefully kind of recuperate the money that we put into making them in our time. So yeah, that's the hope, with some kind of direct releases. But yeah.
So we will see how we go. Hermitino asks, any chance for a retail box version of these games in the future?
It's not. Yeah, that is a big question. I feel like we could do a whole stream on that, Matthew, because we've spoken about this a little bit. It's not something that we are like planning on in terms of like our own release. We have had discussions with kind of other parties, about potentially what a kind of a partnership model might look like. They've not gone any further than kind of a couple of back and forth emails, but it's not, certainly for Matt and I, again, I feel like I was having this conversation with Bez, Stuff by Bez, who's a fantastic game designer in her own right, that you should also check out, the other day, about kind of resources that you have as a person, and kind of like time, energy, and money are kind of three resources, right? And I think energy and time are two things that I would like to just be pouring into making games, as in designing and doing kind of illustrations for, and working and making the games. And I don't really have a massive desire to kind of split that further into working out the logistics of how to make something a physical product. I know that that's something that most publishers do, and I'm mad props to anybody that makes things and gets them to people, because that's, it seems like it's a super hard thing to do, especially these days. But it just, certainly for the Postmark model, I think, I want Matthew and my time to be on just making games, and in the kind of most frictionless way possible. So if we could find a partnership and it worked out for everybody, then it's something we would consider, but not really something I don't think we would do ourselves.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely on agreement for that as well. But we certainly don't have anything against it. But I mean, that was the whole point of setting up Postmark. We wanted to focus on really exactly making the games, not actually manufacturing them. So I don't think we're going to go into that ourselves. But yeah, who knows? We never say never to working with other people and seeing how that goes. Fireflash asks, so how do you guys feel about all these products releasing for these two games you've already published? Does it start to feel like you're being pushed to keep them going out? So I guess you mean new stuff for Voyages and Aquamarine. How do we feel pushed to keep it going? I can start. No, I think I guess it was an interesting thing where we sort of said, oh, with Voyages, we'd make new maps and you'd get them no matter what, and all into the future. I don't think we ever really thought that far ahead about what that would mean. I don't think we're gonna, there's not going to be an infinite number of Voyages or Aquamarine maps, but I think what we decided was just to really just keep it open. We're not going to say that something is finished and that we'll never do something. It's been quite nice going back to Voyages, for example, and doing map 6. So I think we will just kind of keep to our schedule. We hope that our backers and our supporters are kind of understanding of that, and just happy to kind of see each new map as a kind of a bonus, but not necessarily to expect that there's going to be X amount of maps or that they'll come in this amount of time. I think you're right that as we get more and more products, more and more games rather, it's going to be harder to focus on any one of them, and so releases on them will slow, or maybe we'll have to focus on the newest one, and the older ones will have kind of fewer releases or not many at all, really. And I think the other thing is we don't want to feel like you're just making maps for the sake of making maps. They still have to be good. They still have to offer something new to the experience. And obviously people are making, like yourself, are also making amazing custom maps, which, that's also an amazing thing. And I think we don't want to sort of wade in here and just make a whole bunch of mediocre official maps, because I don't think that's helping anybody. So yeah, I think there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff of, I mean, if anyone's like a business strategist or planner or something, feel free to get in touch, because I feel like we're going to have to, there's definitely going to be some rethink, or not rethink, but just about how we will kind of go forward and make the most of our time. But if maybe, I don't know, maybe we could do some polls, Rory, who want, which game would you like a map for first, sort of thing. We see where the community is at. But I mean, definitely we know that Aquamarine has to not catch up, but there's probably a little bit more space to explore with Aquamarine, because we've only had 3 maps so far. Yeah, there's no set amount for either.
I think that's the thing for me. The interesting thing for me about Aquamarine and Voyages is like almost like finding the edges, and that's not to say like we're going to just like make maps until there's no more maps that can be made, but I think it's nice to make something and then make something which has a system behind it, and then to kind of explore where that system can go. And it's quite often a surprise for Matthew and I when we're looking at new content for these games about like, oh right, if you do that, you can do that. It kind of gives you a bit of a different perspective on something that you've already done, which is, I don't think is something that I get to do enough of, or haven't in the past. Like normally you make something and you might get asked, game wise, you might get asked to revisit it for an expansion or a new version, a new release. But it's kind of I guess the introspective way of looking at something you've worked on in this sort of detail is, I find, really interesting, both from the game design point of view and the kind of visual point of view, because, well, I guess, it's a really cliche thing to say, but it's like you're kind of creating game worlds rather than games, where it's like, well, we can kind of explore this visually and mechanically in these directions, and let's just see where that takes us. And that's just, that's fun.
Yeah, no, I take the point too. Actually, it's a really, I think my original one of my big inspirations as a game designer is Magic the Gathering, and for that's the kind of ultimate thing where you get to keep playing in the same game, keep making new stuff for that game, and exploring, and then kind of pushing at the boundaries. And I think that's one of the things I like most about game design, actually, is like, once you have this kind of set of rules, how do you poke and prod, and how do you make things different? How do you expand it? And this has been a really great opportunity to do that. So yeah, no, it's a really nice thing. But again, we wanted to keep doing it, to not, just to keep. We just want to keep making good games. I can't promise that we all, we're not. We've been lucky. I'm sure that we've got a dud coming somewhere, our release, and not that we're aiming to, but just you can't. It is what it is. But we've been very fortunate, and as long as we can keep the quality up, we will do it. So yeah. There's a few folks talking about custom dice, laminated sheets, and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I would love the other thing, which you didn't really say. I mean, kind of putting it out there a bit like the secret or thing. I mean, I personally would love to see a digital version of Voyages or Aquamarine at some point, as sort of a dedicated app. I know a lot of folks already play it, and Rory has done some great videos about playing it on like a notes app and things, like with taking marks. But I think it could be a really fun app. I imagine with a little bit of animation and sailing, especially with Voyages and Aquamarine, both could be really great. We don't have any solid plans for that, but that's also something that is on our radar. I think both the games kind of fit quite well into that kind of sitting back with your iPad and a cup of tea and that sort of thing, and sound effects, as Liv said. Yeah, so that's also something. But of course, that's another undertaking and not exactly within our warehouses. So we'll also see how that goes.
Yeah.
yeah, I think we've caught up with the questions. Thanks, Jess, and yeah, enjoy your food, and thank you again for rating. It's been great. I think we're coming pretty much to the end. So if anyone has some really last questions, throw them in the chat now. Otherwise, I'm going to get some breakfast.
There was one thing I was going to do quickly, which is this anniversary stream. I've got a little cake.
Hey!
About that.
Oh, is that a Bakewell tart or something, or is it?
It's a Bakewell tart, yeah.
Oh,
so there we go. Happy first birthday to us. I'm sorry I can't share that Bakewell tart with you, Matthew, but
I know I will. Okay, I will get myself.
Away.
In fact, I can't even get a Bakewell tart here because it's not a thing in Australia. So I will get an equivalent tart, probably custard, because it is my preference. But no, thank you. Well, and happy birthday. We made it. We haven't killed each other yet. Quite handy that we're so far away from each other. A bit harder to get too angry. But that's as it's a bit the same with my now wife. We spent 10 years apart in our start of the relationship. It's very hard to get angry with each other when you live in different countries.
Exactly.
Yes. But anyway, that's one small cake. But it's not about the size of the cake, Fireflash. It's it's how tasty it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, well, and thank you so much for everyone who's dropped by the stream. It's really encouraging as always, and as Rory said, and maybe Rory, what we should do in the New Year's is we should really stream a epic voyage together. I think.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be good.
I feel like that should be maybe not all in once, but maybe we'll do 5.
I think we could do it. We could do it over a series of weeks or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe that's something we can commit to for the start of the year at some point.
So yeah, give us a follow if you're not following us already, and we will try and do more. It's definitely a desire of mine in the new year to do more streaming and tackle it as the last great social media beast for me to slay in my mind anyway. So yeah, that'd be great. That would be cool to see folks here, and yeah, we'll do some game playing and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, well, I think we might be done then. Unless Rory, you've got anything else on any more secret cakes or candles to?
I haven't. I mean, I asked this last time, and I think we said no because we couldn't work out how to.
How to raid? But I can.
Can you direct us? Can you steer the raiding ship? Because we've this is definitely the most successful stream that we've done of the 2 streams that we've done on here. So we should take advantage of that and do some raiding. While Matthew's doing that, I'll talk. I'll talk amongst myself. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. It's been way more people than I thought would be here, which is great. It's really nice to celebrate something like this. I think Matthew and I were talking about this a while ago, that just people don't do enough of celebrating things like the anniversary of a game coming out. Like a game, for me anyway, is like it's a big emotional push to make a game and to get it out into the world. And I sometimes feel a little bit sad at the kind of the churn and turn that kind of feel that what it sometimes feels like that with games, that you put it out there and then you're on to the next thing. So it's nice to celebrate things, and I'm pleased that we could do something like this. And actually, in hindsight, not doing not pushing ourselves to do another game in November has meant that we can dedicate more time to working on the campaign mode for Voyages, and we can do nice stuff like this, which is really what games are about. About people coming together. That's maybe a bit more heartfelt than I meant it to be. Here we go.
No, that's really nice. I was going to just quickly say, if anyone has a recommendation of someone we could raid, because we're not actually, our account is not following many people, which is a bit bad of us, which means I can't really see who's currently streaming. So if anyone
raid recommendations in the chat,
that would be very much appreciated. But no, I completely agree. You don't have much. I think reflection is quite important, and I think it's probably much underutilized as a kind of very useful thing. Not just because it's sort of a nice thing to do, but also it can be really handy to know where you're going. I only have music people, no game people. Maybe we're not going to be raiding after all. Releasing something is like a kid being grown up now and leaving the house to set it out to the world outside. It's well, I mean, once I think Brett Gilbert, the game designer I work with a lot, it's like once you make a game, it's no longer your like once you release a game rather, it's no longer your own anymore, and it kind of becomes owned by the people who play it, and it's and they will play it their own way, and they will interpret it their own way, and they will make things for it their own way, which is especially is happening in in this community, which is fantastic. All the different things, so it's great. It seems like we have Jamie Daggers. Okay, I'm going to. We can take a recommendation for that. If
I could definitely do with learning how to paint minis better. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yes, looks like some. So yes, please. As always, hope I don't need to say our community. Let's be nice and say hi. But thank you again, everyone. For everything, and have a fantastic Christmas or festive period, Christmas, however you choose to celebrate it. Hope you can get a break if you're able to take a break. We will definitely take a bit of a break. Hope you have a good Christmas too, Rory. In a snowy England, I've seen all the snow since I've left. I'm a bit sad I missed all the snow, but anyway, it'll be a hot one here.
Time to wait for that where you are now.
Well, ever. I don't think I'm going to see much snow where we are, but yeah. So I hope everyone and thank you everyone for the really lovely all the lovely comments, for joining us, and all your support as always. It keeps us going. Yeah. So take care. So let's raid away, and we will start the raid. It will start ticking down. Oh, we are unable to raid.
Oh, do I need to end the broadcast in here?
No. I think it's because we're probably not.
We're too new.
Please hold. You have to go back to talking yourself.
Oh. This is a slick operation here, everyone. A really, really slick. Yeah. And now I suddenly can't think of anything to say. Yeah, we are newbies. That's the problem. Well, Matthew's not. Matthew's is, that's why he's doing the.
I was going to say, you could play the banjo, Rory. You could show us a little bit of your banjo skills.
I'll play a little bit of banjo. That is something I can do. There's a bit of banjo for you. I can't play one. I don't think I can play Wonderwall. I'm not sure how that would work on a banjo. I can only do sort of like silly like bluegrass stuff and like old 17th century folk songs, which is probably not that appealing to folks.
I quite liked it. It was good. But do you have you seen the Detectorists, Rory? Have you watched that?
I haven't seen it, no.
Oh, well, firstly, watch that if you haven't watched it. But no, there's just a point where one of the characters, it's not the banjo, he plays something else, but he can only play it by like sitting cross-legged in a stool. And I was just wondering if you have a preferred way to play, or you're pretty.
You do have to be the banjo, like, because a guitar has a kind of bit chopped out the middle that you can rest on your knee, but a banjo you do have to. You have to sit with your legs apart and it kind of wedged in between. So not the most flattering of instruments to wear. Certainly you couldn't wear a kilt or a skirt without deeply offending people.
Yes, that's something. I think we're not going to be able to. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to work it out, and that's our fault, not JV. We're again a bit. We're trying to learn all these things. So sorry for the. But you can all go, and if someone drops a Twitch link to Jamie Dagger in the chat, then we can do a whole what is it, like I'm just losing my words. We've got to that point of the stream where we just can't talk anymore. We could do an old-fashioned kind of raid, analog raid.
Analog raid, yeah. Yes, Fireflash has got the link there, so yes.
Thank you, Fireflash, and yeah, say hi and be nice, and yeah. But I hope everyone has a good time. Yeah, no, I know how to raid normally, but it's coming up with an error for me in the Twitch slifter. So yeah, it's
Sorry,
yeah.
folks.
Sorry. Great. Okay. Well, take care, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of the year, and see you in 2023.
Yeah. Catch you later. Bye.